Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our SCORE webinar. I realize it's right at 10 o'clock, so we're going to give a few moments for people to log on. We have these events on a regular basis, our webinars, to help share some really valuable information and to help businesses. One of the things that SCORE does is we're trying to help people to start, grow, and lately to have the businesses survive. We've had a lot of changes in the last year, and we've really been able to help a lot of people who didn't even know that they needed help because things were going normal until COVID happened. So there's going to be a format today, but first, for those of you who are unfamiliar with SCORE, SCORE is the nation's largest network of all volunteer expert business mentors, and it's dedicated to help small businesses get off the ground, grow, and achieve their goals. And it's been around since 1964, and we've provided educational mentorship to more than 11 million entrepreneurs. And for SCORE Monmouth, that's our local chapter here, last year we had a 220% increase in mentoring services. So of course, again, there's a lot of need out there, and SCORE, we're always volunteer, we never charge, and it's for the lifetime of your business. So anybody who chooses to have a mentor, it's always confidential, and you have a bunch of experts in a bunch of different fields here to help. So with that, a few of the formats are going to be, we're not going to do a chat function if you're familiar with a lot of other Zoom meetings. Instead, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little Q&A, and we encourage you to ask questions. As Joan is speaking today, if you have a question, put it in the Q&A at the bottom of the page. And after Joan's presentation, we'll have a chance for Joan to answer those questions. And this way helps keep Joan's presentation going along. Our webinar is about an hour today. We try to stick to an hour because we know you're busy. And Joan will be speaking about 30, 35 minutes, and then we'll go into a Q&A. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker and presenter today. Joan Sebring is the president of Focal Point Business Coaching. It's based here in Monmouth County. She has over 20 years of experience working with both local and global leaders to develop strategic plans, build leadership teams, improve business operations, and maximize financial performance. Joan accomplished this at Fortune 500 level companies before venturing out on her own about 2 years ago, with a focus on dedicating to coaching small business owners. Her values of being authentic, trustworthy, and dependable have always driven her to partner and collaborate well with others, leading to a reputation of being the person who you can count on to get results. Joan wants every business owner she works with to feel that they have trusted advisor at their side. This desire, coupled with her experience, have led her to where she is today, empowering leaders on the business journey to help them achieve their true north. Joan?
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm just going to get all of my screen sharing ready to go. You guys can see my screen? Bill, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And aside from my professional history, I just want you to know that I've been a resident here in Monmouth County for the past 20 years, for those of you that are in Monmouth County. I've got 2 kids, both in high school, and about 2 years ago, as Bill mentioned, I decided to run my own business. So I understand many of the challenges that all of you face. I get that it's scary to launch. I know that for many of you, cash flow can be a huge concern. Sometimes you're working harder and harder with no real tangible results and momentum. And I know it can be a lonely road, and it's the reason that I really want to make sure I give back. I believe in SCORE, I believe in the mentoring program, and I'm so thankful that this is an opportunity for me to give you this insight and knowledge, and hopefully you find this very helpful. One thing I will say is that I want you to think about yourself as in this continuous improvement cycle, and all the knowledge and the skills that you're going to obtain help you drive the growth that you need in your business. You'll see at the bottom of this slide, there's a text pebble to 21000. At the end, I'll just mention again, if you want the worksheet that goes along with everything that we're talking about, I'll be happy to send that to you. So as Bill mentioned, put any questions that come up in the Q&A and we'll make sure we go through those at the end. But I do have a solid 30, 35 minutes of content, so we'll get started. All right. For today, my goal for you is that you walk away with some applied knowledge, and that means something that's usable, practical, and applicable to your business model. So we're not going to talk about theories, we're talking about reality. So everything we're going to talk about has been tested and proven by thousands of companies and millions of individuals. So your goal should be, and I'll help you get there, to have a takeaway action item so that you can apply it immediately in your business, period. Okay, so let's get started on identifying what those 6 levers are. But I do want to start out with this quote, and it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph is actually, he was a philosopher and a poet from the 19th century, and he actually was the champion of individualism. And what better to talk about here with a bunch of entrepreneurs. This quote specifically is acknowledging a few things. You really need to make a decision. Some of you came here today because you might be launching, or you just launched your own business. Perhaps your business is underway and you need to better understand what these lever things are. If you take nothing else away from today, take this. The most successful people have a combination of vision and courage and a really good attitude. So you already have the vision and the courage, right? That differentiates you. But what makes you really successful is your ability to know about your market and know about what drives your business. And the people that really hit it big are the people that focus and concentrate with laser-like determination on mastering skills that actually build their business out. And that's what we're going to talk about. So today, pinpoint your opportunity when we talk through these 6 levers and make a decision to make it happen. Now, when I talk to business owners right now, there are 3 things that tend to come up most frequently in terms of their wants. So first, they want more customers. They want more products, services, people in the showroom, subscribers, shipments, orders, customers, patients in the door if they're in the medical field. Number 2, they want more revenue or increased sales. And then the third is, okay, maybe they have the customers, maybe they have the revenue, but they're not retaining enough of all of that, and they're not making a profit. So now the big problem there is I can't help them with those 3 things. And I know that sounds crazy, but let me explain why. The why is because those are outcomes. Those are outcomes that they're looking for. They're not really driving the things that will bring about that change. And that's what we're going to talk about. I do also want to just mention to you and introduce, if you aren't familiar, the law of incremental improvement. And this law is kind of like the story of the tortoise and the hare, I suppose, because it kind of goes back to this old adage that says, by the yard, it is hard, but inch by inch, it is a cinch. So yard by yard, it is hard, inch by inch, it is a cinch. And the reason I mention that to you is because I don't want you to think that the changes that we're going to talk about need to be immediate. Gradual over time actually can win the race. You could be the tortoise, you don't need to be the hare. So if you can commit today to improving something by 0.1%, let me explain to you what that means in the long run. That 0.1% in the next 24 hours, if you sustain that, will turn into 2% this week, or actually 1% this week. That it turns into 2% this month. And then if you continue it, that 2% this month turns into 26% this year. And as you compound that, it'll take you about 2.5 years to double your performance of wherever you are today. So it's the slow and steady wins the race, the incremental improvements, and it's not as daunting of a task in your business. So let's figure out how to get there. The first thing I want to talk about is that first outcome, which is customers. So as business owners and as sales professionals, if you're a sales professional, we are all in this space. You want to open your doors, you want to bring people in, you want people to use your services. And if you're a sales professional, it could be a lofty goal for the month, the quarter, or for the year. So you need to put yourself out there to sell. But where do you start? So there's 2 drivers. The number 1 is leads, and the number 2 is conversion rate. So let's talk about leads first. These are all marketing leads. These are how many people are actually aware of your company as a potential client. These are the leads that your marketing plan generates. And if you don't have a marketing plan, take that as an action item right now. You need a plan on how you're going to bring people to you. Running your business solely off of referrals is not a great business model. And I have to tell you, that's what a lot of my clients tend to do, is base their business on referrals. It's one of the largest reasons that there's these peaks and valleys in a business cycle. It's because you're waiting for your next referral to come in the door and generate business for you. But I would rather see you drive those referrals to your business. So there's ways that you can improve your marketing leads. You can do that through web traffic and digital ads with really good calls to action on how they should contact you or how they can work with you. There's direct mail and print ads, door hangers, secret shoppers, postcards, flyers. There's social media. Get a following, share content, share a product, do a webinar. There's telemarketing, gift giveaways, networking events where you can bring people to you and teach them about your product or service. You can hold events. You can have open houses, and even partnerships with comparable vendors are great ways to bring leads to you. The key here is that you need to decide to generate these leads. You can't not do it. You can't afford not to do it. Okay. And you need to spend your marketing dollars on things that actually are working. So I know there's plenty of SCORE seminars on this, and I'd love for you to go back and look through some of the content, because there's some great opportunities and good value that's out there already. But let me just recap that one of the things that you need to focus on is who your ideal client is. If you're marketing and you don't know who your ideal client is or what their avatar is, you're going to be missing out on the impact of those marketing dollars or the marketing hours that you're spending. So it may have even changed since your initial launch. You may be seeing trends on who you're bringing in. If you originally thought you were targeting men who were divorced and most of your clients are women, you need to make sure you're modifying all of your marketing to bring more of those types of people in the door. And then you also have to make sure that you have metrics in place that allow you to see how impactful your marketing is, so that you do away with things that aren't contributing to your business model. I want to also share with you that 80% of small business owners do not have this information on hand. It's something that I implore you to start tracking. If you have someone that you're working with on marketing, make sure they're providing you with these metrics along with the conversion rates that I'm going to talk about next. So the second lever is the conversion rate. So let's assume you have great lead generation. People are coming through the door. Some of those are referrals. Some of them are coming through via other tactics. The conversion rate is how well you're converting those leads into actual clients. So it basically is taking your total leads divided by your total number of clients, and that math contributes or it calculates your conversion rate. And there are ways that you can improve your conversion rate. And these are something that you can take action on immediately as well. You can improve that call to action, like I had mentioned before. Make sure it's clear what you want people to do in your marketing. A lot of flyers are out there that do not even say, contact me for a free consultation or take part in my free webinar. There needs to be a call to action on all of those types of materials. You can also change your marketing mix. You could do more print or more online or more social media, or perhaps change into different publications. One really big opportunity is to make sure that people who are actually part of your selling process have a script in hand. And what I mean by that is they need to know what your 5 differentiators are in the market. What is your value proposition to your customers? It doesn't need to be a script that they read from, but they need to be talking points so that it helps your client convert over, so that because they know how valuable you are and why they need you. You can also work on things like your client experience, making sure that you're faster or provide higher quality customer service than your competitors. Other options include things like providing payment options for a range of services. So perhaps you provide a 3-tier approach in your pricing so that you bring someone on board at a lower end, but gradually know that your goal is to bring them up to a higher payment plan down the road. You can also provide guarantees of services so that people know that you're serious about the quality of your product or the quality of your service. Limited time offers are also great ways to convert people over. They love deadlines. So if they know they need to convert to get a 15% off discount on your product or service, they many times will pull the trigger based on that incentive. And then the last is client testimonials. I cannot say enough about these. People love knowing that other people have used you. It encourages them. It helps them see that other people trust in you and that you've been successful. So try to gather those and share those with your customers as well to help improve that conversion rate. One thing I also want to share is that, everybody hears this information differently. Some people like the fun aspects. Some people like facts. Some people need to see the proof that you are a quality product or service. So be mindful of that. Everybody hears and sees that information differently. So make sure that you're providing different options in your marketing so that you try to make that marketing as comprehensive as possible for what your potential client needs, your ideal client. So your action item here is to take control of your conversion rate and to take control of the actual marketing lead generation that's taking place in your business. Those are your first 2 levers. And I'm going to go back to the law of incremental improvement here. I want you to take a look at this formula. Think about if you have been in business, go back to 2020, and if maybe even year to date, if that's more applicable for you, and think about your stats. Think about how many customers you actually had. And if you don't know your conversion rate and you don't know your number of leads, let's just guesstimate them. And I want you to do some math. I want you to take those numbers and increase your lead generation by 10% for the next 12 months. And I want you to see what that will do for your business. You'll see that it's sizable. It's a small improvement. And if you start it now and you take that 1% approach to improvement, you can get there by the end of the year. But it all requires the decision to take action. All right, so those were the first two levers. Those all relate to customers. So let's talk a little bit about revenue now. So revenue is about how many sales and at what price you can sell to your customers. And there are 2 levers here in the revenue formula, and that relates to the average sales price and the frequency that your customers buy from you. So the average sales price per customer, or the order side, is something that you can control in your business as well. So when you go into a grocery store, you see all the tchotchkes and the gum and the candy at the register. They're not doing that for your convenience. They're doing that as an upsell. They want to increase your order size when you go to the register. It's the same way that a restaurant has a waiter ask for drinks or appetizers or a dessert. It's an upsell. Even when you go and you purchase a media system, you often are asked about whether or not you want to have a warranty, another upsell. So I want you to think creatively about the ways that you can do that in your business, because this is very viable as well. You can do things like just do an across the board price increase of 1% to 2% for most of your customers. Unless you're a very expensive product or service, that's not going to impact them so much where they're not going to want to work with you anymore, but it could help you generate more revenue for your business. You can also bundle your goods together for a package so that more products or more services are purchased at once, and it increases the average sale price per customer. You can also do things like charge a lower amount up front, but then ask your customers to sign up for a maintenance contract so that in the long run, you're actually making more money with them during the duration of their time with you. Other ways are financing options. So instead of asking and charging $1,000 for a service, you can say, okay, you could pay this over 3 installments of $400 each. And instead of collecting $1,000, you're collecting $1,200 in total. There's other things like incentives. A 2-for-1 special helps increase the sales price or the sales amount for that customer for that purchase. So coffee shops tend to do this. Buy a donut, get a free coffee, right? or get a discounted price on your coffee. And another opportunity here is auto ship. So Chewy and Amazon have done a great job on this. They auto ship you goods. If you are selling a good online, especially, auto ship is a great opportunity for you to increase, how much you're getting from your client, because they're going to do that recurring business with you. So those are different options. You can be creative though. These are just a few examples. Now the fourth lever is about the increase in frequency of sale to your customer. So you've worked your butt off. You've created all of these leads. You have great marketing. You're converting people over. There's a great script for your sales team. But you've done all that work. Wouldn't it be nice if you had them as repeat customers? There's nothing better than recurring business. So how do you do that? You can do and introduce things that will incent them to come back, such as loyalty programs. So Coffee Shop is another great example. Again, they often give out frequent purchase cards. So after your 10th cup of coffee, you get the next one free. You can offer rewards, 15% off your order if you order by X date. Jewelry stores tend to collect data, and you can do this as well with your customers or from your customers on key dates or key information about them. And right before those key dates or associated with that key data, you can send them a reminder for a 15% off coupon for an order or a service, a nice reminder for an anniversary date. Rebook programs are another option. So a good example would be a hair salon, right? Every 6 weeks after you complete that touch up of your roots, they'll rebook you. And it's because they're keeping you. If they rebook you every 6 weeks, they're going to have you there as a customer more frequently over the duration of the year. Email reminders, calls, and postcards are another great example. And, for me, my vet does that for me. I get a postcard saying that Layla's due for her next round of vaccinate or shots or a checkup or whatever. I would forget, but that card reminds me that it's time for me to come back for that visit. And another great opportunity, especially for folks that are in things like health and wellness, you can do client education programs. So you can actually teach your clients why it's more important for them to see you on a regular basis, how that health and wellness preventative measures actually help them in the long run, and it encourages them to come back to you. So that's the fourth lever, is to increase the frequency or your repeat customers. Think of creative ways to get them back in the door with you. So we go back here now to the 1% rule. And so I would ask you to think about what your differentiators are in the market as it relates to price. And is there an opportunity for you to increase your price right now? If you introduced an incentive program to the customers, would that help them come in the door? Would it increase your volume in terms of the revenue and that recurring visit from your customers? So go back to those numbers again for 2020 or for the first quarter, year to date, whatever you want to take a look at, and think about whether if you increased your average sale price by 5% and perhaps you increased the frequency of sale by 5%, what would that do for your business? What would you do with that extra cash flow? Where would you spend it? Because it's easy to produce once you apply some of these new techniques and tools. Now, the last formula is the profit formula. And sometimes when I go through this presentation, this is where I lose people because it gets into some accounting lingo. And I don't want you to be intimidated by that if you're not a numbers person or you don't understand some of the terms. I will tell you that your mentor certainly can help you understand this a little bit more. If you have a bookkeeper who does your books, they can help you make sure that you have these numbers at your fingertips so that you can make decisions that'll be meaningful to your business or your CPA. So the profit formula relates to the revenue that we talked about already, and basically all of the expenses that are associated with the business. And when you take your revenue less those expenses, that basically provides you with your profit for any given period of time. So there's two levers as it relates to this profit formula. The first is cost of goods sold, and I'll explain what that is. And then the second is operating costs. So for cost of goods sold, this basically relates to all of the costs associated with actually making a product and delivering it to your customer. So it doesn't include things like rent or overhead costs, marketing expenses, etc. So let me just explain a little bit deeper. If you are a business that actually sells a physical product, this cost of goods sold relates to the raw materials that you use to actually produce your product, the cost of manufacturing that product, and perhaps the cost of shipping that product to your customer if you're actually putting it all together. For a service business, we often refer to cost of goods sold more as cost of revenue or cost of sales, but it's different in that you no longer have raw materials that you're putting together. You're actually rendering a service, but the same principles apply. It's any cost associated with rendering that service. So if you're someone like me who's a coach, it might include costs. If I have a staff person help me deliver a workshop, then that cost associated with actually delivering that message to my audience is part of my cost of sales. So no matter which category, whether you have a good or a service, it doesn't matter. There's opportunity here that you can take a look at. So there's things like lowering, you can make sure that you're keeping and not ordering more product or more raw materials or more inventory until you really need it. You can work with, instead of various suppliers, you can just work with one or two suppliers and work on negotiating terms for volume discounts. That'll reduce your cost of goods sold. You can also find cheaper materials to use, and that cost will help you increase your profit in the end. One other opportunity is if you have a sales team who's actually selling your product to you, if you're paying them a salary, you can modify the way that you're actually compensating them by paying them a lower base and giving them more incentive payouts based on the number of products that they sell for you. So it's a win-win because you're matching your revenue with the cost that you're paying to them, and you're actually incenting them to do more for you because they want to make more money. You can also do things like negotiate shipping costs, so that, or perhaps take a look and see if your clients are willing to accept a 3-day shipment versus overnight. That helps reduce your cost base. And you can also work on improving terms with your vendors, perhaps not paying up front, but paying at 30, and that'll help you improve some of your cash flow. And for solopreneurs, I want you to pay attention to this because I understand that for the most part, you may be doing all of this. You may be marketing, you may be selling, you may be delivering. And I want you to think about how much your target is that you are paying yourself or you would want to pay yourself per hour. And let's say that's $100 an hour. I want you to think about what you're doing each day to actually deliver your product and ask yourself, would I pay myself $100 an hour to do that? So for example, if you're actually answering the phone and taking orders, would you pay yourself $100 an hour to do that? And if the answer is no, those are activities that you should start considering to outsource to other people. Maybe have a virtual assistant, maybe have someone answer the phones for you, because every hour that you spend doing those types of activities are the hours that you're not out marketing and you're not out selling and you're not out producing content or creating products. And we all know that the one thing we can't get back is time. So that's the cost of goods sold. Let's talk a little bit about operating costs. So if we think about all the costs associated with selling the product, everything else is called operating costs or operating expenses. So this includes rent, utilities, marketing costs, business insurance, administrative costs, salaries and benefits if you have a team that aren't associated with selling. And there's ways that you can actually reduce these as well. There's companies that actually can come into your organization, especially for folks who are more established, and they can help you identify where you can implement some savings. They help negotiate discounts with certain vendors. And they get paid based on a commission. Now, if you don't want to go that route, you can take a look at your specific expenses, such as rent. This past year has shown us that if we are a brick and mortar business, maybe we don't need to be at the high ends in the high rent district. Maybe we can be around the corner. Utilities can certainly be reduced or modified or negotiated. Cleaning services, the quality of some of the maintenance fees for your AC and your heat. Another example of ways that you can negotiate those numbers or look for different vendors. Business insurance, fire insurance, put them all under an umbrella, and you can reduce those costs. For the things like we talked about with marketing and advertising, et cetera, I want you to think about whether you're using those dollars appropriately, as we talked about earlier, and reduce those costs if they aren't necessarily benefiting you and bringing in leads into your business right now, or spend those dollars more wisely. So all of these are opportunities to reduce those costs. And that's your sixth lever. So if we go back to that 1% rule one more time, these areas of cost of goods sold and the operating expenses tend to be a little bit more difficult in terms of getting huge numbers of change or reduction. But it is possible. And my question to you would be, if you could commit to reducing those expenses by 1% over the next 12 months, what would that mean to your business? What would you do with that additional cash flow? How would you reinvest it in the business, et cetera? But those are all options. So those are the 6 levers: the customer formula, the revenue formula, and the profit formula. And I'm happy to take any questions.
So Joan, one of the things that seemed to be a recurring kind of thought in your presentation was, as entrepreneurs, many times we all try to worry about that top line thing called sales at all other costs. And to me, in watching and hearing your presentation, it certainly seemed like if you know what the metrics are and you make those small little steps, it'll lead to big, big results. And for instance, if you have a salesperson that maybe isn't performing better, what if you replace that salesperson with a better person? Right. Or just knowing what those figures are. And I think that's like a recurring kind of theme that we've heard about here, is knowing what it is that you're doing. Can you replace what you're doing with that's one of the things McDonald's did well. They don't sell great hamburgers. They just figured out how to make that process and get it so easy that they can have people who aren't really highly skilled or highly paid and repeat that over and over and over again. So I wonder, Joan, if you could give us an example, like, and you don't necessarily have to name the full name, but of maybe somebody that you helped realize these topics that you've been talking about during this morning's conversation.
Sure. I'll give you a good example of one that comes to mind. I have a client who's a bookkeeper, and she came to me. She actually transitioned, had a full-time job. She started her bookkeeping service on the side, and she brought on so many clients that she actually decided to leave her full-time job. So she's now launching her business, but she had this challenge. She wasn't sure whether she wanted to rebrand herself or how to price herself. Everybody kept telling her that she needed to charge more money, right? So we actually took a step back. We started looking at the patterns of behavior of the customers that she had on board. What did she like about those customers? What did she spend more time? What did she want to spend more time doing and less time not doing? And what that allowed us to do was actually look at, it was one of the things I mentioned, right? She came up with a 3-tier approach of how she's going to service her clients now. There's now minimum deliverables in terms of time and the services that she's rendering that she will do at a low-end client, a middle-tier client, and a high-tier client. And then anything above and beyond that is now an upsell. So she now has the opportunity to provide a better offering to her ideal client, because we know who that is now. Her avatar is clear. Her values are aligned with who she wants to serve. And now she's actually increasing her average sale per customer because of all the upsells now that she has. She's no longer giving services away for free, but her clients also know the value that she's providing, and it's crystal clear. And it's more aligned to their needs based on those 3 tiers.
I think a key word that you said there was the avatar. And what differentiates your business from someone else, and that's really where you'll start getting more customers. You'll get better customers. You'll get customers who are willing to pay more for your service because of how you've differentiated and formed that niche. And I remember being at a networking meeting one time, and the person up there said, "Everybody in this room is my customer." That person, he just wanted anybody as his customer. But the shame of it was, not really everybody in that room is his customer. And once he knows what the specifics are, like who is your customer, what's their average age range, what's their gender, where do they live, where do their kids go to school, the more defined that you have that, you'll start finding more people just like them. And that could differentiate it and separate you from being just a price commodity, as many businesses are. So I think your key point of that avatar is, and if you could explain that a little bit more, of like painting that picture of who it is that is your customer, and then find them over and over again, I think would help.
Yeah. So, what we tend to do is think about the demographics of a customer. Is even as simple as, is it male or female? Does that matter? How old are your customers? Who are you trying to target? Because even when you think about something like social media, I'm trying to think who I spoke to about this, but there was it was a client who was targeting 14-year-old girls on Facebook. That is not the right market to be targeting 14-year-olds. They don't use Facebook. They use TikTok. They use Pinterest, right? So you have to know who your client is and what age they are, so that you know you're using the right marketing tools to attract them. It could be their income level. You want to make sure that if you have a high price point for your product or your service, you're not trying to market that to people who cannot afford your services, right? And then if you get this picture of who they are, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, how old they are, how much money they make, then you can paint a picture of what we call client core cares are. What are their frustrations? What are their aspirations? What are their biggest challenges? And then in all of your marketing, you actually solve those problems for them. That becomes your messaging, is I will take away this pain for you because I understand you so well. If you are this wide, you don't really know how to market to this huge area. But if you can narrow it down to this space here, you actually will attract more clients through what we call that avatar, which basically is this picture of your. It's not always going to be picture perfect, right? You're not going to always have that perfect ideal client come through the door, but they are generally going to have most of the characteristics that you've envisioned for your business. And that does change over time. Like I gave an example of someone who might be targeting men who are divorced, and for some reason their business has shifted to women. Well, you need to change your messaging then to speak the language that a woman needs to hear. Understand.
And I think in the last year, that certainly has been a big point, because people who are doing business as they always have done, and then something like a pandemic happens, you have retailers that are scrambling, you have restaurants that are the first time offering outdoor dining options. And even after things get better, I think that's going to be another opportunity that they didn't see. But I also think that when you have that avatar and you figure out how do you serve or how do you solve a problem, and you solve it for that one customer, will be a very easy way to get referrals, because everybody knows someone. If you were to look through the phone book, and the old days of having a phone book, you could say, okay, who's an A? Oh, an accountant. Who's a B? And if you start thinking, expanding what you're presently doing to something else, it seems like it should yield better results.
Absolutely.
We do have a question.
Yep.
I'm sorry. We do have a question that said, we have a lot more prospects than customers. Does conversion rate consider all existing customers, leads, and prospects?
So the conversion rate really is focused on any new leads that you're actually generating in your business. So it's not existing customers. That's more about recurring business. So this is, you spend marketing dollars, you're actually attracting new leads or prospects to your business, And then you're seeing how many of those actually convert over to clients. So if that conversion rate is low, what I would say is think about and even talk to some of your existing customers and find out from them, what prevented them from pulling the trigger and coming on board. Is your messaging clear in terms of what your value proposition is to your customers? Would they be incented if there was a program in place that gave them a volume discount for the number of products they order from you? I can't answer all those questions without knowing the specifics, but it's the actual new leads that actually turn into customers is the conversion rate.
Mm-hmm. And I think getting, like we were saying earlier too, getting feedback is imperative too. And we all think of we bought something on American Express, and you get a survey after. Can I have 20 minutes of your time to get a survey? And it's a bunch of check boxes that mean nothing to you, means nothing to the company. One survey I had seen after doing business was it was one question, which was, how likely are you to do business with us again? And it gave a 1 to 10 rating. Mm-hmm. And then they had a program where if it's anything less than 10, say, what can we do to get you a 10? Mm-hmm. And the value of that was you're getting people to give you their feedback instead of filling in some sort of preset bullet points that you think that they want to know, but may not be true. So absolutely. I think all that what you're saying, I think it gets back to knowing your customer, learning who your customer is, and really going through the metrics of, is this a business that you're getting profit and revenue out of, or is it more of just something that you enjoy doing and you haven't considered the revenue part?
Right. And if you do want to go back to your customers and do a survey, I'm very conscious that a lot of things cost money, right? But there are free ways to do that. You can use a service like SurveyMonkey, which is pretty user-friendly. You can type in a few questions and send it out to your customers. You can also use Google Forms. Very straightforward as well. And you can modify it to be radial buttons to give a range of services and the satisfaction level, or you can put free form fields in there so you actually collect more qualitative information. So those are two examples of ways to do it fairly cheap, and get some of that insight that'll help you with the marketing for those new leads that are coming in the door.
And somebody else had asked here is, should I expect my accountant to be helping me with these levers?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I would say two things. Number one is a bookkeeper is also an option because they can help you get some of this information together in terms of what your expenses are, what your revenue is, et cetera. Certainly your accountant or your CPA can have that information. What I would say is their role is not to give you business guidance. Their job is actually to deliver that service to you. So it's one of the reasons that I would encourage you to use your mentor here at SCORE. Talk to your mentor, if you have one, about ways that you can take a look at and analyze your actual financials or the metrics that we've talked about. Certainly, me as a business coach, that's why people hire coaches, is to help them figure out what those steps are. But you do need guidance. I'm not sure that it's right to expect your accountant, though, to provide you that guidance, but they can give you the information you need to analyze it.
And I think knowing what questions to ask your accountant so that he or she can give you the correct answer. But again, I think I agree the accountant is more there to take the information you have and give you the results of it, but not really intriguing you to know what questions to ask.
Right.
So if you were to give like one piece of advice of a company of how to increase either profit or revenue, what is the most important thing that somebody could do? What action item could they do after today that they could do one thing that's going to yield them the results that they'll see a change?
Yeah,
I know there's 100, but pick one.
That's a tough one, Bill. So I can't answer that holistically, but what I can say is there's 6 levers now. One of these, I am 100% certain that one of these is applicable to everyone on this call. You cannot tell me that you can't improve your lead generation, or you can't improve your conversion metrics, or you can't think about your ways to increase your average sale per person, or do things like loyalty programs. One of those is going to resonate with one of you. Or you can look at cutting costs if you're really established, right? Have a company come in and do this for you. Again, you don't want to spend your time doing that because it may not be the best time use for you as the owner of a business, but people can help you there. The biggest obstacle is taking action. It's the reason why during each one of those formulas, I stop to say, make a decision. It's the reason I started with that quote as well from Waldo. Make a decision to take action and know that slow and steady wins the race. It doesn't need to be a huge change. You just need to be, your mindset needs to be about improvement. The continuous improvement cycle, what's working, what's not working, what metrics do I have to measure the success, and make sure you're tweaking those regularly. What I sometimes hear is that clients are going through an entire marketing campaign during an entire year. I would say that's way too long. In this market, especially after the pandemic this past year, you need to pivot quickly. So test, learn, rinse, repeat if it's working, and if it's not, change your tactics. So I hope that's helpful. I didn't really answer the question, Bill, but that's because it's different for everybody.
Well, you know, one of the things I heard you speak about today was the little increments. For instance, if you could increase your, say if you can increase your prices by 5%, if you can increase new customers by 5%, if you can increase your frequency by 5%, if you can decrease your expenses by 5%, before you know it, you have a 20% increase and you haven't really changed a whole lot other than you're aware of what you're doing and you're taking those incremental steps that are those action items that are going to help you get there.
Absolutely.
And after today's presentation, Joan's presentation will be available. It'll be on a YouTube. So there's a lot of information here today, but I would suggest it's like when you hear a song for the second time, or you read a book for the second time, or a movie, that's when you notice all those little characters behind it that you may not have heard the first time. So something you heard today may be different than the next time that you re-watch Joan's presentation here. And perhaps share it with someone else on your team, because maybe they see something and they have a different aspect of it, and it gets you and your team to start working in a direction that's going to help improve your business. Again, it's not only your top line revenue, of course, everybody thinks of that, but it's how much are you making at the end of the day? You know, I sold a business, and it wasn't until the last 2 years that I worried about, hey, there's a thing called bottom line too. And for those of you in business, if you ever get to be selling your business, you want to have the profit be high. And the steps that Joan is talking about today is all those little action items that'll help you get there. So that not only that you're making more revenue, you're making more profit, and maybe having a more sellable business at the end. And it all starts with taking some action. And I think that's what Joan's message, at least to me, resonated really well. Do something. You know, there's things you can change, there's things you can't change. So change the things you can, and I think it'll really make a huge impact on your business. And you're going in a positive direction. You'll find other things will follow along there too. So, did you have a recap here, Joan?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, one of the things I'd like to offer is if you do want this spreadsheet in just one picture along with the tip sheets, I'm happy to send that to anybody that's on the call. Just text me, as I have at the bottom of the slide here. Do the math, find out your numbers, come up with that target of percentage that you think you can do. I mean, just think about what is possible and then do the math. I'm telling you, you're going to, as Bill mentioned, once you start multiplying the numbers and you see what that'll mean to your revenue and your bottom line, it's pretty substantial. And it's a motivator to get you in action.
And in any business, why do some really excel? And why are some struggling? It's probably because the ones that are struggling haven't done anything to change to be a successful business. And again, I love the idea of those little incremental changes. If someone were to be asked to do a wide scope of things, that's too dramatic. It's like, let's go on a diet and we're only going to drink water and have eggplant for a week. For a month isn't going to work, but give little increments, and that's how it works. So we will be sharing this presentation again on YouTube. I would suggest sharing it with other people that you know, so that there's a weird thing in life. When you give someone first, you get back more. So you can share this with other people. And who knows, maybe that will be that one little tidbit that'll start getting somebody's light bulb to go off, to have that aha moment. And they could be the business that differentiates. They could be maybe not a $2 trillion business like Apple, but maybe they could get raving fans and they could get people to come back. And, you know, the core of it is if you can make more profit at the end of the day, well, that's a good thing. So there's many, many ways that you get there. And I want to thank Joan for sharing this. We will share this, Joan, we will share this recap with our people, and you know, afterwards in our message and our follow-up, and there's going to be YouTube on it. There's a wealth of information. You could take these actions. I believe strongly you could take many of these actions in whatever areas that you want, see those results, and then go to the next step and the next step and the next step.
Absolutely.
And someone like Joan is here to help. SCORE, of course, as mentors, we never charge anything for it, but we don't do the service. Like, we have accountants, we have attorneys, we have many different specialists in our field, but they're not going to replace your accountant. They're not going to do your legal work. They're just going to maybe focus some of your ideas. And there is value of hiring an outside consultant, because, as Joan said, if that person can do a better job more efficiently at less cost to you, you can start working on more important things. And that's a hard thing from when people go from being a solo entrepreneur to being thinking of it as a business, not just as a job. Mm-hmm. And you get a lot more satisfaction if your business is growing, you're employing other people, and you're having great feedback from both your customers and your employees. But you have to take that action. And I think Joan really, really shared a lot of good things. And when you watch this for the second time is when it's really, those light bulbs are going to go off. So I wanted to thank you, Joan, for sharing this with us today. It was a lot of information. I think it was really helpful. And for those of you who, again, aren't familiar with SCORE, we are here. We have 7 chapters of SCORE in New Jersey. We have, I think, 300 chapters throughout the country. So if we don't have the expertise, we can share that. Again, we won't do the work for you, but as a mentor, we're not supposed to. We're just supposed to be there to encourage you and help get you there. So if you have any interest at all, you go to monmouth.score.org. And also, because we've had this pivoting of last year, we had a 220% increase in services. Our demand has gone up too. So we are looking for additional volunteers. If you or you know someone who's experienced, who's done well and looking to give back to others, and are interested in becoming a SCORE mentor, and SCORE mentors, we're all encompassing, and we take men, women, different race, different all that. We are truly, we're interested in helping others, and we're funded by the SBA, so that there's never ever any cost to anyone at all. But so I want to thank you all for coming today. Please, when you get the video, take a chance, rewatch it, get some ideas. If you have any ideas, you can just jot them down. I'm sure Joan will be glad to give you those specific answers for whatever that lever is that's going to best help you. Okay. So I want to thank you again for attending today's webinar. Please look at our Facebook page where you'll see other events coming up and other webinars. If you have any other ideas or people that you think could present to us, again, we're always looking at sharing great quality content. And again, I want to thank you all for attending today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody.